Have you ever imagined losing your entire house for less than the price of a cup of coffee? That's exactly what happened to Marcus Washington, a hard-working father from Georgia whose $400,000 dream home was sold by his HOA for just $4.90. It sounds impossible, right? But this nightmare was real. Marcus had worked for years, saved every dollar, and finally moved his family into what he thought would be their forever home. A quiet neighborhood, friendly people, and the promise of stability. But beneath the surface of that promise lurks something darker. His homeowners association, it started with a small late fee barely noticeable, something most people wouldn't even think twice about. But instead of resolving it like normal, human beings decided to turn his life upside down. They took Marcus to court, and before he even realized what was happening, his house, the place his kids grew up, the walls painted with family memories, was auctioned off for a pocket change can. You imagine walking outside one day and realizing your home, the most valuable thing you own, is gone. And all because of $4.90? But how did it get this far? And, why would any HOA be so heartless as to destroy a family over just a few dollars? Marcus Washington never considered himself unlucky, born and raised in Macon, Georgia. He was the kind of man who believed in working hard, paying his bills, and taking care of his family. After years of long shifts at a manufacturing plant, Marcus and his wife, Danielle, finally managed to buy their dream home in a suburban neighborhood just outside Atlanta. It wasn't a mansion, but there's a $400,000, two-story brick house with a backyard where their kids, Jordan and Maya, could play freely like many American families. Marcus had signed into a homeowners association when he bought the property. At first, it seemed harmless. The HOA promised neatly trimmed lawns, clean sidewalks, and a sense of community. Who wouldn't want that? Marcus didn't think twice about the extra $80 a month. He figured it was just the price of living in a nice neighborhood, but little did he know, the very group that was supposed to protect his home would eventually steal it. The trouble started small. One month, Marcus was late paying his HOA dues. The reason? He had been covering hospital bills after Danielle injured her leg in a car accident. With all the medical expenses piling up, Marcus missed the HOA payment, not by much, just one cycle. He thought he would catch up next month. Then came the letter. It looked ordinary at first, just another envelope from the HOA. But inside was a notice, outstanding balance, $4.90. Yes. Not hundreds, not thousands, just $4.90. Marcus chuckled at the absurdity. Surely they're not serious, he thought. He placed the letter on the counter and told himself he'd deal with it after payday, but the HOA wasn't laughing. Within weeks, more letters followed. Each letter was more aggressive than the previous one. Final notice. Legal action. Pending. Foreclosure warning. All over for less than $5. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. Who in their right mind would take someone's home for $4.90? He asked Danielle. She didn't have an answer. The kids overheard the conversation and got scared. Daddy, are we going to lose our house? Little Maya whispered, how do you explain to your child that the very system designed to protect you is now threatening to destroy everything you've built? Marcus tried calling the HOA office. Each time he was met with cold responses from their manager, a woman named Karen Thompson. She spoke in legal terms, dismissing his concerns as if he were just another name on a file. Mr. Washington, according to the bylaws, your balance is overdue. If payment is not made immediately, foreclosure proceedings will continue, Marcus begged. It's $4.90. I'll pay it right now over the phone, but Karen refused. We don't accept payments this way once the account has been forwarded for legal action. You'll need to deal with the attorney. That attorney, of course, came with fees, hundreds at first, then thousands. The $4.90 debt had snowballed into a legal nightmare. Marcus couldn't believe it. How can $5 turn into thousands? He asked aloud. The more he fought, the worse it got. Letters from law firms, court notices, threats of foreclosure, it all came crashing down on him like a storm he couldn't escape. And all the while his neighbors watched silently, some whispering, others pretending not to notice. Danielle tried to reassure him. We'll figure this out, Marcus. They can't really take our house, can they? But deep down, Marcus wasn't so sure anymore. The day finally came when he realized this wasn't just a warning. It was real. A sheriff's notice appeared on his front door. His home was scheduled for auction. Can you imagine standing in your own living room, looking around at the family pictures on the walls, the toys scattered across the floor, the memories of birthdays and holidays, and realizing strangers would soon own it? Marcus had one question burning in his mind. How could the system be this broken? Marcus Washington had always believed that if you worked hard and followed the rules, the system would protect you. But standing in his living room one quiet Tuesday morning, holding that foreclosure notice in his hands, he realized just how wrong he had been. The notice was clear. His $400,000 home would be auctioned at the county courthouse in 2 weeks. And the reason? A debt of less than $5. It sounded like a joke. But it was in single quotes. Marcus spent nights digging through every letter the HOA had sent. He spread them across the dining table like puzzle pieces. Each one had the same cold, corporate tone. First the $4.90, then late fees, then processing charges, then legal fees. What had started as pocket change had now ballooned into thousands of dollars. How is that even possible? How can the price of a burger at McDonald's turn into a family's worst nightmare? Danielle sat across from him, her eyes tired but fierce. Marcus, you have to fight this. We can't just let them take our home. He nodded. He knew she was right, but fight how? Lawyers cost money they didn't have after medical bills and regular expenses, and the HOA knew that. Marcus tried calling the HOA office again, hoping for some shred of humanity. Please, I'll pay the balance. Right now. I'll pay the fees too. Just stop this foreclosure, Marcus pleaded on the other end of the line. Karen Thompson's voice was as cold as ever. Mr. Washington, once a foreclosure is initiated, we cannot stop it without full settlement of all attorney fees and interest. Marcus swallowed hard. How much? $7,843.75 as of this morning. It increases daily. $7,000. For a debt that began with $4.90. Marcus's hand shook as he hung up the phone. How was this even legal? Word spread quickly around the neighborhood. Some neighbors offered sympathy, others whispered. One even told Marcus, "That's why I always pay my dues on time. You should have known better." It cut him deep. Did people really think he was careless? Did they not see how insane this was? One elderly neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, knocked on his door one evening. She whispered as if the HOA had ears everywhere. Marcus, you're not the first. They did this to a woman down the street last year. She owed less than $200. They took her home too. Please, be careful. Marcus thanked her, but his anger grew. This wasn't about a mistake anymore. This was a pattern. A system designed to strip people of their homes over nothing. The county courthouse was crowded the day Marcus showed up. He wore his only suit, a navy blue one he'd bought years ago for a friend's wedding. Danielle sat beside him, clutching his hand when his case was called. Marcus stood tall. He explained to the judge that the original debt was $4.90, he offered, to pay it on the spot. He begged for common sense, but the AOS attorney stood smugly at the other table. He pulled out documents citing bylaws, contracts, and interest clauses. To the attorney, Marcus wasn't a human being with a family. He was just another case, another paycheck. The judge glanced at the papers, sighed, and shook his head. Mr. Washington, while I sympathize with your situation, the law is the law. The foreclosure will proceed. Marcus's heart dropped into his stomach. Danielle broke into tears. How could this be justice? How could a man lose his entire life over less than $5? 2 weeks later, Marcus stood outside the county building. His house, the one he'd worked his entire life for, was about to be auctioned. He wanted to scream, to fight, to do something. But what could he do against a system stacked so completely against him? The bidding started, and within minutes it was oversold. For $4.90, the clerk announced. Marcus froze. Did he hear? That right? His $400,000 home sold for less than the cost of a single gallon of gas. Danielle gasped, covering her mouth. The kids, too young to fully understand, clung to her legs. Marcus felt his knees weaken. His entire world had been stripped away in front of strangers, and no one seemed to care. Back at the house, Marcus had to explain to his children why they couldn't sleep in their rooms anymore. Why did they have to pack their toys, their clothes, and their memories into boxes? "Daddy, where are we going to live now?" Jordan asked. Marcus tried to answer, but the words stuck in his throat. What could he say? That their family had been robbed, not by criminals in the night, but by an HOA in broad daylight? The moving truck arrived a week later. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains as the Washington family loaded their lives into cardboard boxes. Marcus could feel the stares, the judgment, and the pity that night. Sitting on the edge of an air mattress in a small rented apartment, Marcus whispered to himself, "How could $5 destroy everything?" He replayed every moment in his head, the letters, the phone calls, the court hearing, the auctioneer's voice. It was like a nightmare on repeat. Danielle put a hand on his shoulder. "Marcus, we have to tell people. We can't let this happen." To someone else, she was right. If their family could be destroyed over $4.90, then no homeowner in America was safe. And so, Marcus made a decision. He would fight back not just for his family, but for every family who had been crushed by HOA abuse. But how? Could one man really stand up against a system this powerful? Marcus Washington had lost his home. On paper, the HOA had won. They had taken everything from him and his family over a debt that should never have existed. But what they didn't know was that Marcus wasn't done fighting. That night, Marcus opened his old laptop at the dining table of their rented apartment. Danielle sat beside him, determined. Together, they began writing letters to local news stations, posts on social media, and a detailed account of how the HOA had destroyed their lives over $4.90. At first, nothing happened. A few friends shared the post. Some people commented in disbelief, but most shrugged. After all, HOAs were known for being unfair. But then, something unexpected happened. One morning, Marcus woke up to dozens of missed calls. A neighbor texted, "Turn on the news." A local Atlanta news station had picked up his story. The headline read, "Family loses $400,000, home over $4.90 HOA fee." Within hours, it spread like wildfire across the country. National outlets picked it up. Social media exploded with outrage. Thousands of people commented, "This is theft, not justice. How can this even be legal? HOAs are out of control." Marcus and Danielle sat in disbelief as reporters knocked on their door, cameras flashing. Suddenly, their tragedy wasn't just theirs, it was America's. The story reached the desk of a Georgia state senator, who publicly called the foreclosure a disgrace to homeowners everywhere. He announced plans to introduce a bill to stop HOAs from foreclosing over small debts without a full court review. For the first time, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. Maybe his suffering could spark change. Maybe his family's pain wouldn't be wasted. 2 months later, Marcus got a call from his attorney, an attorney who had offered to represent him pro bono after seeing his story on the news. "Marcus, I have good news," the lawyer said. "The court has voided the foreclosure. They ruled the sale invalid due to gross disproportionality. The $4.90 case is officially being overturned." Marcus nearly dropped the phone. "Wait, does that mean we get the house back?" "Yes, Marcus, you're going home." Tears filled his eyes as he turned to Danielle. "We're going back." When the Washington family pulled into the driveway of their Georgia home, neighbors gathered around. Some clapped. Some hugged Danielle. Even the skeptical ones admitted they had been wrong. The kids ran inside, screaming with joy. Jordan dashed into his old room, touching the posters still on the walls. Little Mia hugged her teddy bear she thought she'd never see again. Marcus stood in the living room, breathing in the familiar scent of home. He whispered, "We're finally safe." The HOA, on the other hand, was not safe. Investigations were launched. Karen Thompson, the board president, faced public humiliation and stepped down. Lawsuits piled up from other homeowners who had been abused, the once feared HOA. And it was all because Marcus had refused to stay silent. Months later, Marcus was invited to speak at a town hall meeting about HOA reform. Standing at the podium, looking out at a packed room of homeowners, reporters, and lawmakers, he said, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician. I'm just a father who almost lost everything over a few dollars. But this fight isn't just about me, it's about all of us. If an HOA can take my home over $4.90, then no home in America is safe. It's time we change that. The crowd erupted in applause. Marcus had gone from victim to advocate, his story becoming a symbol of resilience and justice. Back home that night, Marcus sat on the porch, watching his kids play in the yard. Danielle leaned against him and whispered, "You did it." Marcus shook his head gently. "We did it. And maybe now, no other family will have to go through what we did." He looked at the house, no longer just a building of bricks and wood, but a monument to perseverance. And for the first time in months, Marcus felt peace. Question for you. What do you think, should HOAs even have the power to foreclose on homes over such tiny debts? Or should the law change to protect families like Marcus's?
This was just one story, but the next one will be even more dramatic. Are you ready? Then you need to subscribe to HOA Stories 87 right now. Like this video, share it with your friends, and hit the bell because the next story might sound a little too close to home.